Live from Orlando, Florida, you're listening to the Orlando Magic HQ podcast, the voice of Magic fans. Join us every week for a unique fan perspective on all of the latest Magic news and updates. The show starts now.
What's up, Magic fans? Welcome back to another episode of the Orlando Magic HQ podcast, brought to you by the Believe Podcast Network and Bet Online. I'm your host, Anthony, and filling in for our guy, Al, who was probably the smartest one out of the Magic community who decided to go on vacation during NBA trade deadline. Al won't be joining, but filling in our man, Stephen Cameron, from the Close Up podcast. Steven, what's up, man? NBA trade deadline, it came and it went quickly. What's going on, my man?
Yo, what's going on, Anthony? Psyched to be here, psyched to talk some basketball, psyched to talk some NBA trade deadline. The Magic were super active. It's a great day to be a Magic fan. I'm here, I'm ready. A lot of emotions up and down today.
Super.
Yeah, we'll get into that. But man, I'm doing good. I'm psyched to be here. And you're right. Al, he did the right thing. He took vacation. He's in another country. He was like, I know it's going to happen. I'm not even going to be in America. I'm going to go to another country altogether and just get out of there. He's got like no cell service because he's in the jungle. You know, he's doing all the right things while all of us were having emotional meltdowns over here. So yeah, good day though. I'm psyched to be here, man. Let's talk some ball.
Yeah, it's cool. So if you haven't heard one of our episodes where it's just Steven and I, Al is really the coordinator behind the scenes. He gets us set up with the agenda. He keeps us structured. And when he's not around, we'll be honest, we kind of just wing it, right? So
we wing it.
We wing it, man. And we kind of get in trouble. So we're going to keep, it's going to be a little different feel, but we're going to definitely talk about the NBA trade deadline, just some of the things that's happening across the NBA, and then a lot of the things that the Orlando Magic did not do. And yeah, rightfully so, man. The community has been vocal, so we're gonna discuss, we're gonna give our feedback, kind of, our outlook on how everything kind of played out, and then I think it'd be a good idea to read some comments and we just kind of give our thoughts on some of the comments that people drop, man. So yeah, before we get into it, just a quick word from our sponsor, Bet Online. Bet Online is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting in 2025. Whether you're a seasoned fan or a first-time bettor, BetOnline is your ultimate game day companion with the largest selection, odds on everything from football, the NBA, college basketball, to NHL and UFC. BetOnline is your number one sports betting source for the new year. Every touchdown to three-pointer and hat trick, BetOnline has you covered with odds, stats, and more for every game, every play, and every win. BetOnline, the game starts here. Also, do not forget to check out our guy, Brandon Kravitz, who has all new episodes of the Zone Heads podcast with Brandon and his new co-host, Zach, which are available wherever you download your favorite podcasts, and catch BK live on In the Zone weekdays on 96.9 The Game starting at 3:30 p.m. Steven, tell the people how great our Patreon program is.
Yo, our Patreon program is fire. We have a super active Discord community. We have 2 different levels of membership that you can do, a $5 tier and a $10 tier. And all the proceeds basically come right back and go right back to you guys. We use that money often to do giveaways. We use that money often to upgrade some systems behind the scene so we can keep improving our content and keep operations going. Sometimes we use the contributions to go to good causes, where like a member in the Magic community is struggling with something and they have a GoFundMe, and we sometimes do donations to those types of things. So all of the financial contributions through the Patreon program kind of get used that way. And we do a lot of things to give back to you guys. We have an active community on Discord, which is going 20. We have a lot of custom content just for you all, and we do giveaways just for the Patreons. We're gonna probably do another giveaway just for Patreons coming up in the next couple weeks. So keep an eye out for that. And yeah, we'd really appreciate your support. And also, if you're watching this on YouTube, hit that subscribe button, hit the like button. If you're listening to this on a podcast, go ahead and give us a 5-star review and tell your friends about it. And make sure you're following us on all social media platforms, because we got the goods, baby. We got the goods.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Well said. But now that we got all the house maintenance stuff out of the way, let's talk NBA trade deadline. This NBA trade deadline was active for everyone outside of Orlando. The trade deadline was exactly that. It was dead. The Magic were one of the very few teams in the NBA that did not get any movement done. We saw
Three
Jimmy.
teams.
3 teams.
One of three
Yep.
teams.
Crazy. Crazy. You got Jimmy Butler that's going to Golden State. You got Brandon Ingram going to the Toronto Raptors. Luka going to LA. You got Anthony Davis going to Dallas. There's a lot of movements across the NBA. Andrew Wiggins going to Miami. There's just a lot of movements, and the Magic didn't see anything happen. So, million-dollar
Dennis
question.
Schroeder has been on 4 teams this year. Started on the Nets, went to the Warriors, got traded to the Jazz, and now he ended up with the where is he at? Is he with the Raptors?
He landed with the Utah. Was it the Utah Jazz?
He was
I
with the
believe it
Jazz for
Utah
a second, and now
Detroit.
he's with the Pistons.
He's
He's with the Pistons
Detroit.
now.
Yep.
He's been on 4 teams. I mean, one of them he was like kind of there, like he just like was there for like 5 minutes. But that dude's everywhere.
Yeah. So and honestly, that kind of brings up like the biggest gripe with everyone, right? I don't think that there's anyone out there that was expecting for the Magic to do a big splash. Like nobody was expecting for the Magic to trade for a LaMelo Ball, trade for a Trae Young, trade for a Luka Doncic type player. Like nobody was expecting for a home run. What they were expecting is for a level of movement that allows his team to play better on the offensive end. We know that this team has some major holes, and unfortunately, I think that people's patience has kind of run out. This whole evaluating, we really like our team. As long as we're healthy, we're a better team. Like, I think we've passed that point where we are ready to win now. And we've all gotten that taste, right? Last season, we make it into the NBA playoffs. Unfortunately, we make it just a couple games shy of that top 4 seed, so we don't get home court advantage, but we take on the Cleveland Cavaliers in the playoffs, taking them to game 7 and ultimately losing. We have high expectations this season. And unfortunately, on a team that has now struggled deeply because of injury, we're expecting for Franz and Paulo to get some help, man. And Paulo, Mike Miller, they were very vocal during the offseason about wanting to be able to bring in a player that's able to help set the table up. And, maybe we're not expecting for that answer to be permanent, but at least somebody that can come in to be able to help and support. You've mentioned the name of Colin Sexton, someone that you like. We've heard the name Kobe White. Dennis Schroeder was obviously a name that we've heard, throughout the whole season since the offseason, just his connection with, our German guys. But give me your initial reaction. E15 pops up. Orlando Sentinel comes out and confirms that the Magic are standing pat and not making a move. What is your first reaction?
I was bummed, to be honest, and not because I was expecting the Magic again. I wasn't expecting them to make like a tier 1 type of trade. I kind of wasn't even expecting making a tier 2 trade. Like I knew I wanted these kind of like, second unit type of players, Colin Sexton, Anthony Simons, these guards that could be a 6-man off the bench, a higher level player than like some like Cole Anthony or Gary Harris. And play starter level minutes in the second unit and close games like we've seen Cole do at times off the bench, where he comes in the second unit, but ends up playing offensive player, as with the closing unit because he's, has it going. And I was kind of looking to get that type of player in our system, right? Help with the ball handling a bit more, do some more playmaking, settle the offense down, or just generate offense in general. Knock down some shots. I mean, the Magic are the worst offensive team in the league and the worst 3-point shooting team in the league. So it's just like, it's very frustrating. And when that came around and we didn't get that, I was like, man, that really sucks. But then I started really thinking about it. I was like, man, I kind of really what I was hoping for was we do like a tier 3 move where it's like we're just kind of upgrading Caleb Houston or like Corey Joseph, like these guys, the 13th, 14th, 15th man on the roster that are doing jack shit. I'm not even upset we didn't move Gary Harris. because his contract is a good trade contract, whether we used it now. He also is like a good trade contract in the summer because we can send him in a trade as an expiring contract for next year, because next year's is a team option for him at like $10 million. So we could trade him next summer, next deadline. So there's some value in not moving him today. But I'm just like, man, like the season has been so full of injuries. The guys that we asked to fill in for those injuries outside of the defense did absolutely nothing offensively. And you're relying on the offense getting fixed by three players with Paulo, Franz, and Jalen Suggs. Well, Jalen Suggs has missed so much time recently with his first he had the back strain, and now he's got a leg thing going on, and he's missing he's played like one game in the last like 10 or 12 games. And so it's just, I was hoping for just some form of depth improvement, right? In that, like anywhere from like 6-man role to like literally the 15th man on the roster and Corey Joseph. And so, yeah, the 3 o'clock, 3:15 rolls around. We haven't done anything. I'm just like, I'm kind of gutted, right? I was in the office working, and knowing this front office, I knew they weren't going to shake it up too bad, but like, there's got to be something they can do to be a third team in a trade that literally is just like helping facilitate by like receiving a second round pick or a player that, I don't know, just find a way to be involved somehow. And I was so bummed, bro. I just like, it was like lunchtime. I'm like, because I'm in the West Coast, so it was like 12 o'clock over here. I'm like, yo, I'm out. I left the office. I came home, didn't really finish my workday here. I jumped on X and did a spaces for like an hour and 15 minutes. We had a venting session, which was really helpful. There was like 100 something people that jumped in, maybe 200. I don't remember exactly, but had some really good conversation, just like getting it off our chest. But yeah, man, it's, I look at it this way. Yeah, it's disappointing they didn't take an opportunity to improve the roster, because I think we know when this team is healthy, sure, they might improve shooting a little bit, but it's still going to be a problem for them. We know that Cole Anthony Black, they are very inconsistent players right now. We have 5 years of data on Cole Anthony being an inconsistent player. Let's find some help there. We know Gary Harris is injury prone. We know Caleb Houston literally can't do anything on the basketball court. And we know Corey Joseph is washed. Find a way to improve one of those situations. Not everything, just one. And they didn't do it. And so it's just like, man, it's just frustrating. I was just frustrated. I'm sad. I'm trying to shake it off, because I think the one thing is now it's like, cool, all these guys better step up. There's pressure on them to perform because the front office believes in them. The coaching staff believe in them. I mean, I think most of our fans believe in them because of what we've seen they can do, but can they level up the offense to where it needs to be to actually be a threat to get out of the first round? They'll still probably be a playoff team. They'll still probably have a pretty decent first round, but like, is it enough to get out? That's what I don't know. We have Paulo and Franz, so that makes us dangerous in any capacity, but we know they need help. And that's where we're going to see, can these role guys step up,
Yeah, and listen, one of the biggest things that kind of frustrated me the most is, like, we've been talking about so many years of like, there eventually we're gonna have to consolidate. Like, eventually we have so many young guys, and us adding Tristan da Silva to this roster, like before we even got to really know Tristan, we're like, man, it's a really bad idea, because you just drafted Anthony Black and Jett Howard, and Jett Howard is obviously a project. So the way that I viewed this year was, Jett Howard was our rookie, right? Because he was kind of redshirted last year, played a lot of time in G League, really didn't get a chance to see the floor. And even AB didn't see, he didn't get a ton of minutes unless, there was injuries and he had to cover. But Tristan obviously came in. He's an added value. But now we're looking at another draft pick. Now we're looking at, another, we have the Denver pick as well. So there's no way that you can keep adding new young players to this team. So obviously we know that in the very near future, a trade has to happen, right? But I just find it, how do you go 2 years, 2 seasons through the trade deadline and you don't make nothing, no moves, nothing happens? Last year I can understand, right? Because you're still You're still fighting to make it into the playoffs. Like, you're still fighting to make a name for yourself. We've done that. Cat's out of the bag. People know that we're legit. Like, we're a good basketball team. We're young. We can't shoot. People know that, right? So we're not surprising anybody now. So now kind of hearing Jeff Waltman kind of give his reasoning, and this was reported by Jason Beat on the Orlando Sentinel. Jeff Waltman said, "We were aggressive in seeking out what we thought could be equitable deals, and they didn't shape up." So great, right? In a sense where, and this is where it's like a double-edged sword, you don't want to make a trade for the sake of doing a trade, because that's how you end up trading Victor Oladipo for Serge Ibaka, right? So we don't want to make stupid trades. When you look at the players that the Magic were interested in, or rumored to be interested in, your Colin Sextons, your Kobe Whites, your Anthony Simons, like, these are all players that weren't moved, period. They're still with their team. So it's not like we missed out on those players, and that I understand. But at the same time, like, every other team in the NBA, they were able to make a trade happen with somebody, right? And you mentioned it earlier, like, we weren't even able to be a part of any trade to help any team facilitate anything. Like, we
didn't get cash considerations, bro.
Nothing, zero. So I get people's frustrations. People have been patient for a very long time. The Magic should have made something happen to at least, feed that appetite of support, man. These guys we need help offensively. Like, we can't suck this much offensively and our shooting. These guys this team needs help. And when I mean these guys in this team, I mean Paolo and Franz.
Yeah.
Jalen Suggs is not a point guard. So Magic, we got to figure something else out. We're running out of time. The clock is already ticking.
It's interesting, man, because like we've had this front office since 2017 now, and we've seen them work with two different eras of teams, right? We had the Vooch era, and then we've had the current era, Paulo and Franz. And so we have some data now on how they operate. They've always been a little bit conservative, right?
Always.
They've made pretty minor trades during the Vooch era. At one point, they traded for James Ennis. That was, I would consider, a buy. They basically traded a second-round pick for a player, like a 3-and-D wing that helped us for a little bit. He played like a season and a half for the Magic. No, it wasn't amazing, but he helped us in a way, right? Very low margin move, but it was a helpful move. They made a trade for Markelle Fultz. These are considered moves I consider buying moves to when the Magic are buyers. Markelle Fultz, he obviously didn't play that first year we traded for him because he was rehabbing, but it was an investment in a player that they believed would help this team long term. Almost all the other years, they were sellers, trading away Elfrid Payton, trading away, a second round pick that they weren't going to use. But they always did something, but it was like a trade, like getting rid of RJ Hampton. Like, there was just so many, like, a bunch of little minor moves like that. And so it's like, okay, they were kind of tried to help the Vooch era at the trade deadlines, but not much. And then when you look at the Magic team now, okay, you can kind of excuse the first couple years with Paulo and Franz. Paulo's a rookie. They're rebuilding. Their main goal is to get another good draft pick, kind of just see what he's got, trying to figure out what these other young kids can do. Even last season, right? It's kind of their first year kind of looking partly together. Paulo's second year in the league. Let's evaluate what these young guys can do, and how the role players work with them, get a healthy year under it. I could almost understand that just being like a neutral year. Like, we'll look around, but we don't need to be aggressive because it was an evaluation year for a reason, right? And it makes sense. I can justify that. But this year is again, one of the first years the team, in my opinion, has positioned themselves with what they're saying as their team expectations to what they showed us what they can do last year in the playoffs, that they should have been labeled as a buyer at the deadline, where they are looking to find ways to improve the team. And we have now had 2 years in a row with no trades done, last year and this year. The year before that, they did a trade, but it was to get off Mo Bamba. They traded him to the Lakers for a second-round pick and Patrick Beverley, who we asked not to report. And so Then the year before that, they traded for Bol. They like helped, I think it was the Celtics out or something like that, and kind of like said, sure, we'll take him and PJ Dozier off your hands. Like, we'll do that for a second round pick or something like that. So it's been a while. It's been 3 years since the Magic have actually done a trade at the trade deadline that's brought in a player. And is this life or death of the team? No, it's not. They're going to figure it out. They have, they're not going to end the year as the worst 3-point shooting team in the league. I think as they get healthy, guys find their rhythm, I think they will creep up into like the mid to early 20s. I don't think they're going to be a top 10 shooting team. I'm hoping their offense will kind of do the same thing, kind of maybe creep into the low teens as Paulo and Franz become, more adapted to their roles. They get Jalen Suggs back. We've seen what Franz can do. We know what Paulo can do as they find themselves. And, I still have high expectations for them to be a playoff team and like be a problem for the matchup that they get matched up with. Now, what not being aggressive at this deadline might mean they're probably not going to get out of the first round. I mean, they might not. I don't know for sure, but that's kind of where my head goes. They'll have an opportunity this summer to, again, they got Gary Harris, which is a contract that is expiring. They can send him to a team that needs to get some cap flexibility. They have 4 picks this year in the draft. They have 2 first-round picks, one from us, the Magic and the Denver pick. Then they have I believe it's a pick from, it's like the best of Boston or the Grizzlies or something like that. And as a second rounder, then we have the Magic's own second rounder. So they're going to have some flexibility this summer to, make a trade at the deadline or at the draft, around the draft, and improve the roster. And I expect them to do that. But I don't even know if I expect them to do that, because I expected them to make some form of a trade at this deadline and they didn't. But we're sitting here recording this on Thursday, February 6th. The Magic are currently playing the Denver Nuggets. I have it on the side screen. It's like I just watched Anthony Black airball a 3-pointer. Now it's like, can we get some shooting on this damn team?
It's 88-62. Magic are getting absolutely smacked around by the Denver Nuggets. I get it. Yep. It's the Nuggets. It's their 5th game of their West Coast road trip. They're dying to get back home, but the part that hurts the most is that we're watching this team in real time struggle, begging for help. And granted, you can make the argument that once we're healthy, things will start to get better. The shooting will get better. There will be more flexibility. Jalen Suggs, man, if you didn't or haven't been able to see just how much value that guy brings to a basketball team, he's definitely a missing void. But again, a frustrating part. I'm taking a look at the NBA standings right now. You got Cleveland number 1, Boston 2, 3 Knicks, 4 Pacers, Magic sitting at the 8th seed. And you look, if the playoffs were to start today, you don't want to see that Cleveland Cavaliers team. No. They're 41-10. They're the best team in the NBA right now, and they got better during the trade deadline.
Yep.
So it's seeing these teams grow that margin farther and farther apart. Boston, obviously the reigning champions. The Knicks, they loaded up being able to get, Karl Anthony Towns. These teams are getting better and better, and it's just going to be so much harder for the Magic to be able to keep up with just the way that this roster is structured.
Let me ask you a question, man. Let's back off from on the court. Jeff Weltman and I can't even think of our GM's name at the moment. Anthony Parker. When it comes to these two guys in the offseason, do you have faith in them to make some adjustments to this roster? What's your faith level in the front office right now?
So when we brought on, Weltham early on, right?
Yeah.
We brought them on for 2 major reasons. The first reason is they were supposed to be the ones that are able to find the diamond in the rough, to find the Giannis type player in the draft, right? They were supposed to be high-level draft analytic people. And then the second part is making sure that the Magic didn't make any bad financial moves. Like, we're not paying Jeff Green paying DJ Augustine.
I wish we paid $15,000 for Jeff Green. You mean $15 million?
Yeah, $15 million. Sorry. We're not paying DJ Augustine crazy money. We're not paying. Oh man, why can't I think of his name right now? Who's
Do
the other?
Do not bring up Timothy Mozgov. That is my hero.
No, no, no. But he's definitely someone I did think about. Oh, why? It's gonna drive me
Bismack?
absolute. Bismack Biombo, Jesus, yes, Bismack. We're not paying him crazy money, and from that perspective, this front office, although they haven't hit every single NBA draft pick, let's not kid ourselves, right? They did draft Bamba. They for the most part were able to find two cornerstones for the Magic in Franz and Paulo. Like, if you don't want to give them credit for Paulo, you sure as hell give them credit for Franz, and they
Right.
deserve all the credit in the world for Paulo because everybody else wanted us to draft Jabari, right? And then from a contract perspective, outside of Franz and Jalen, and then eventually Paulo, we're not really overpaying anybody. Like Franz, for the most part, was kind of living up to that contract. I mean, he's still playing really good basketball, but it's that was their forte, and they've done
Yeah.
that their declining in contracts gives the Magic so much flexibility. So this conversation I was having with my cousin earlier today, shout out to Richie, is, man, could this just be that this is they did their part, but are they the ones that kind of end or finish the story of this team? And I know everyone's kind of already bringing out the fire Jeff Wellman. I don't think I'm there just yet. I get everyone's frustrated. I'm not there just yet, but I can see a world where they did their part and they got us to where we're at now.
Totally.
But would it be more beneficial for another general manager, another president of basketball operations who does have more strength in the negotiating, finding a trade? The only thing that people really give Jeff Wellman credit for is the Vucevic trade and call him a genius for that move, but we haven't seen anything since. So I don't fault anyone for thinking that. And I was one of the ones that I would always fight for Jeff Wellman, but I'm running out of things to fight for him on. Like,
Yeah.
we can only be patient for so long.
I hear you on that. And it's interesting too when you think about this. Like, the front office got an extension a few years ago, and that extension is up not this summer, but the following summer. So after the 25-26 season. So this summer, depending on how the playoffs go, they might not get extended after that. The ownership might say, let's see what you got. And if it doesn't go well, maybe we're going in different directions in the middle of next season, right? Coach Mosley's extension lined up exactly with the same extension that the front office has. So his deal also ends at the next year. So I don't think they've had a whole lot of pressure, because I think if you look at the last couple of years, they've made some great progress. I know we're all down right now, but they went from Vucevic being one of the worst teams in the league, again, nailing the Franz pick, and him turning into a superstar. No one saw, even if you wanted Franz in the draft, no one thought he was going to be this. They got Jalen Suggs, which, and I think, it was probably a little bit of an easier pick to make because he was like a protected top 4 player. And then, obviously you get the first pick, but you still have to pick the right guy. We've seen plenty of first picks not turn out, and like the second, third, or fourth guy who gets picked be the best player in that draft. And we nailed it, like, from day one, which is phenomenal. So they've made progress every year with how their win totals. They had a phenomenal playoff series last year. Like, there's progress that have been made, but I do think, like, okay, if they slip to the play-in and they don't make it out of the play-in, or they just have like a 4-and-out sweep in the first round, like, that's where I think ownership's going to come in and be like, we're not giving you an extension. We need to see what you're going to do. And that could put a little bit of pressure on them this summer to be more aggressive. Now, I will say, like, no move is better than a bad move. If what we heard in the article is actually true, where all the teams that they were trying to talk to, a lot of them were trying to give them short-term Band-Aid type fix players for, like, in return for Magic long-term key players, then okay, that makes sense to pass on that kind of stuff. But that just means this summer becomes even more important. Like, you really can't go into next year just like running it back. We were injured. It doesn't have to be crazy drastic changes, but there has to be some changes. And we know they're not going to use all 4 draft picks they have, 2 in the first, 2 in the second. So there's going to have to be at least some trades there. Now, what do those trades look like? Are they bringing in veterans? Are we shipping out guys that kind of will not be for this team long term? I'm talking to you, Caleb Houston. I'm talking to Corey Joseph. Like, what's the deal with Jed Howard, Gary Harris, Cole Anthony? He's been playing better as of late. Shout out to Cole, but also I still don't think you're the 6th man of the future for us. So I think it's going to put them passing on this deadline, I think automatically puts more pressure on them to make a move this summer or moves this summer, because at this summer, they'll have 12 months left on their current contract unless they get extended. So now, for some positive, Paulo's a superstar when he finds his rhythm. He's going to find it. Franz is a superstar when he finds his rhythm. We saw both these guys have, really good starts to the year with Paulo. Franz had that amazing, 15-game run before he got injured when Paulo went out. Jalen Suggs, we know, is one of the hardest players in basketball, one of the best defenders in the NBA. Has improved as a shot maker too. He's not a point guard, but he has improved as a facilitator. We know this team can go and play good in the playoffs. They have KCP. He's had a slow start to his career here, but in 2025, I think he's shooting the 3 closer to 37%, which is much better. He's got playoff experience. So it's there's reasons to be optimistic that they will end the season better than they have played the last 30 games. But yeah, man, I think it just puts more questions on the front office long term, because they're getting ready to lose tonight. It's 69 nice to 96 with 8:45 left in the fourth versus the Denver Nuggets. And that will have meant they've won 2 games out of the last 13 games. And I think that means they've won 9 games out of the last 30 or 31. So it's not great. Or maybe 10 games, because they won against the Kings. So maybe it's 10 games out of the last 31 games. So not a great run, but I do think we will be in for some better play and some better wins coming the last 28 games of the season.
Yeah, and the team needs it, man. And there's already been reports and maybe some comments that Paulo said where the environment hasn't been necessarily what it used to be. Not quoted exactly like that, but that's kind of where it was kind of getting at, man. And losing will do that to you. Imagine you need to find a way to be able to get out of that funk. So, Steven, I did want to read some of these comments, just some feedback from the community. Once people realize that the Magic, because if any trades were to come in, late, right before the cutoff at that 3 o'clock, it would be reported a little bit after. But once it was reported that there was nothing happening, people went to social media and shared their thoughts, right? So let's read some of these comments. You have a very small group of people that are actually okay with it, that they are okay with keeping the team together. The team is injured, that's why we're playing bad. But others who say we're 29th in field goals made and 30th in 3-pointers made, nah, we don't have any needs. This is coming from Mus Huerta. And then we got another one that says, I wish they would communicate better the long-term game plan to the fan base. It's not that hard to communicate without giving up your strategy completely. This year is expected of us to make a move, to be honest, definitely within our 2 first-round picks and a lack of scoring. So this is coming from Jolton.m.a.Borms. And I agree with that sentiment, man. I wish that we were able to see the vision. And here's the thing, we don't know what's going through their minds, right? We don't know if they have a specific target that they want, that they believe, a set of trade targets that they believe would be a perfect long fit for this team. And they've talked about it before. They're not going to make any short-term decisions that won't impact us long-term. They want to make sure that whatever decisions they make is going to help us build that competitive team, that championship caliber team in the future. But the issue is that the Magic went through the Magic fan base, we went through a rebuild, and that rebuild didn't work. So we restarted the rebuild after we did the rebuild. So this isn't we're not just looking at this based on us waiting, 3, 4, 5 years. This has been a very long journey post Dwight Howard. And I think we're at the point where everyone can't wait as long as Jeff Weltman is looking to wait for. I think people is they've lost their patience already, and I don't blame them. Nash One Jones says it becomes harder and harder every season being a fan of this organization. If we don't make the playoffs, fire the front office, please.
I want to push back there. This organization just brought you to 7 games in the playoffs. I understand your sentiments and frustrations, but it should be getting a little easier than it was during the Vooch era. Just want to give a little pushback there, my man, but I understand the sentiment and frustration.
Yep. The real Nate 81 says, crazy, a team that struggled to score, staying pat like they don't got it like that is crazy to me. J Flip 3887 says, if we haven't lost like 15 of our last 17 or 18 games and still for 4th in the East, maybe we should make a move. Not now. At this point, we just be wasting assets.
Good comments, guys. And some unique usernames too. A lot of cool number combinations. Wondering what they mean. Birthdays, maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
Fire off 1 or 2 more.
Ivan Lending saying we have all these assets and not use them. We don't need to get younger. We'll never get out of the first round of the playoffs. And then the last one, we need a solid 3-point shooter. WTF is behind the decision to not trade. So that one didn't make sense. But I mean, ultimately, people are pretty much saying the same thing. Everyone wanted, and here's the thing. This is where it's important not to kind of fall victim to the drama. People love the drama. The NBA is a drama league. That's how they're able to drive their numbers. People are excited about the NBA in the off season just as much as they're excited, if not more, during the actual season itself. People love to hear, Luka Doncic being traded out of nowhere from Dallas to LA. People love to hear the story about free agency and Doc Rivers locking up DeAndre Jordan and not letting him leave the house to go talk to Mark Cuban. People like to hear that. It's just what it is. I get it. So I get people wanting to hear and make moves. This is just one of those scenarios where I strongly feel the Magic should have made a damn move, right? This is not one of those cases. A move should have happened. And this is probably going to be my last point. The Magic, we do not need to be 15-man deep. Like we just don't need to be 15-man deep. And if we need to cut down our rotation to where it is way less than way more, but we can improve our roster, this is where the consolidation is going to be really important. And if certain players are just not fitting the mold, is not able to contribute in the way that we expect them to, I'm sorry, man. If you're, and this is just work life in general, not talking about the NBA, like real life, working in corporate America. If you're not performing, there has to be some level of consequence, right? And for the most part, and I read this comment earlier today, and this is coming from someone outside of the Magic community saying, if you are an NBA player, the safest team to play for is the Orlando Magic because you're not getting shipped nowhere.
We're going to keep you around. Keeping you around. You're going to get paid and you're going to hang.
Yeah.
You could be injured. We'll just keep you on the bench for 2 seasons. It's great.
Yeah. So Steven, give me your final thoughts, man. End it with a positive note because I know that we kind of vented a little bit.
And that's okay. It's needed, bro. After a high emotional day like today, for a lot of us with high expectations to do something, you need a venting session. Like I said, I had a Spaces. Thanks to everyone that came out this afternoon, and it was just a venting session. But some positivity, guys. Paulo and Franz are superstars. They're healthy. Jalen Suggs is around the corner from being back on the court. KCP starting to find his shot. Cole Anthony's been balling out recently, and I do think as these guys just continue to get a little bit more time, they're going to continue to find themselves, get into a rhythm. We're already starting to see Coach do a little bit of stuff differently, like we saw in the Sacramento Kings game to try and get some guys some better looks. I hate the term scheduled loss, but tonight's game versus the Denver Nuggets is one of those games, back to back, last game of a long 6-game road trip. But coming up is really cool. 10 out of the next 11 games are at home. So they're going to come home, and they have San Antonio, which is not an easy game anymore with De'Aaron Fox, but they have San Antonio on Saturday. Then they have the Atlanta Hawks and Charlotte Hornets. So a nice little 3-game homestand there before they go to Atlanta. Not even a long road trip, for a 1-game road trip. Then they come back and they have Memphis Grizzlies, Washington Wizards, Cleveland Cavaliers, TNT game, Golden State Warriors, and then back 2 games in a row. Not back to back, but 2 consecutive games versus the Toronto Raptors, and then again the Bulls before they hit the road for like another 5-game road trip. So they're going to be home for a long time. A lot of those teams are not going to be very good. Atlanta Hawks made some changes. Charlotte Hornets, obviously rebuilding for the future. Washington Wizards, rebuilding for the future. Toronto Raptors, rebuilding for the future. Like, a lot of these teams are not trying to win basketball right now. So the Magic should be able to find some rhythm there, start finding a way to string some wins together and correct the ship, and hopefully make a little bit of progress in the standings. So that's kind of like what the next 15 games looks like. I'm really excited for that. I think it's going to be good. 15 games. It's like the next 12 games. And I'm just optimistic, right? Am I bummed on this front office? Sure. But at least they didn't do something stupid and get us into trouble and like do a bad trade today. They have opportunity to make improvements for this team this summer. I expect that they will. They've been a little bit more aggressive in the off seasons than they have during the trade deadline. So I think we'll see something happen. They did sign, like them or hate them right now, they signed one of the most coveted free agents this summer in Contavious Caldwell-Pope, and they signed him quick. So, I expect some type of adjustments this summer, and I still hold this team as a playoff team that should be at least another 7-game series and hopefully getting into the second round and kind of taking that next step. So hopefully this losing streak, this skid, this funk that we're in will end real soon once they get back home to Orlando and Kia Center. It's been a long road trip, starting with that Miami game. Like, that feels like ages ago, but that was like, it was like 5-6 games ago. It's wild, man. What about you, man? What's some positivity you want to get off your chest, and kind of let's see if we can sleep a little better tonight with some positivity?
I'll be honest with you, man. I am super happy that we decided to do this podcast like later on in the day and not immediately after 3:00, because my tone would have been completely different. So now that I'm at peace and I was able to vent a little bit, I just want to say it is okay if you are not frustrated, if you are not bothered, if you are disappointed, if you are not disappointed, then you just don't care enough. Like this,
totally.
You're not passionate enough, right? Because ultimately everyone's end goal is the same, man. Everybody wants this team to be successful. They want to see this team wins, and on that front, everyone is aligned. We are aligned with the front office. Front office is aligned with us that we want this team to be successful. We all have different methods, right? So it's just something to keep in mind. People want to fire Jeff Wellman. I'm not there yet, but I'm definitely as disappointed as the next person. So trade deadline's over. We can't do nothing about that. It is done. Now our eyes are looking forward, and the big step for us is to start getting some wins in the win column. And luckily for us, you got the All-Star break just right around the corner, and
get these guys healthy.
Well-needed time for our guys to get healthy, and that has to be the number one goal and mission for this team, is to be able to get fresh legs back underneath us and get Jalen Suggs back into the fold, and get this team going to where we know that they are able to get to as they are healthy, and then you kind of just revisit everything after the postseason. So that's my only positivity hit. Is that
it's good.
Hopefully we'll get some fresh, healthy bodies after the All-Star break.
So yeah, right and that's the All-Star break is in 3 games away. They play San Antonio Spurs, they play the Atlanta Hawks, they play the Charlotte Hornets at home, and then they go on the All-Star break. The last game, that Charlotte Hornets game, is on the 12th. Then they don't play their next game until the 20th. So there's a nice little 8-day break there. That's a road trip game. And then they come right back on the 1st at home again for another huge, massive, like 7-game homestand. So, which is really exciting. And, I just want to shout out our writer, Brett James. He wrote a really good article today about the Magic passing on the trade deadline. Go check that out. Our Spaces guys on X, Bryce, Stanley, Skinny, check them out. They had a really good 2-hour Spaces talking about the moves that were being made around the league, and they talked kind of right up to the end of the deadline. So I'm sure there's some Magic venting at the end there. I didn't get to tune into all of it, but I did get to listen in to a good amount of it while I was at work, and I enjoyed that. And then I'm going to have an article coming out in a couple of days. Again, it's going to be about the trade deadline, but coming more from a fan perspective. I'm interviewing 4 or 5 different fans right now, getting some thoughts together, and I'll have that published in the next day or so. So I don't do a lot of writing that gets published, but I'm excited about this one. Actually, I do some writing for the Patreon program. Shout out our Patreons. Go sign up. Check the link in the description below. That's all I got to say. Shout out Orlando Magic H Crew contributors. We love y'all. Shout out Orlando Magic HQ fans. Thanks for tuning in. Yeah, dude.
Yeah, appreciate everybody listening and reading. I don't do any writing. I retired writing after I passed the FCAT. So on that note,
good job.
I know. Pat on the back, first try. On that note, man, Steven, appreciate you filling in for Al. Thank you for joining me.
Al.
Thank you for joining me on this venting session. The great thing is that on the next episode of the HQ podcast, I'll get to vent a little bit more with Al. I'm sure Al will have he'll need his own venting session. We'll just
He will.
100%. We'll need it. All right, man. Great stuff. On that note, it's a wrap. Show is brought to you by Bet Online. We'll catch you guys on the next one.
Peace.
For all the latest Magic news and updates, visit OrlandoMagicHQ.com and follow us on Instagram at Orlando Magic HQ and on Twitter at OMagicHQ. Also, remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel and subscribe and leave a 5-star review on your favorite listening platform.